Hello, Cubs fans, and welcome to a brand new edition of Cubs on Tap. The pipes are well lubricated because I haven't had to do that for a long time, but it feels really good to be back on the microphone with the boys. I am Ron Luce, joined tonight by Mr. Tyler Edmonds and the Juice Man himself. Boys, first off, how you gentlemen doing tonight?
Guys, it is great to finally get to talk to you guys again. First of all, like we were talking about before all this, happy anniversary. Happy anniversary.
Absolutely.
And for today, I'm cracking one.
There we go.
Let's go.
Happy anniversary. I'm great, guys. It's good to see you. Good to see you.
Good to see you too, buddy. Juice, how you doing, my mans?
Doing good, man. Just I'm taking in like 7 sporting events right now via phone. Technology's great, isn't it? So if you see me like gazing out over here to South Bend Stu over here, it's because he's holding my phone right now. Happy anniversary, boys. I'm gonna make a statement on that. This is the last one I'm gonna celebrate because I'm tired. I'm ready for another one. I've moved.
I like that.
After 6 years here, 6 years is enough. It's time. This is the last one. I'm going to fully 100. I will look at fond memories, but I ain't making posts no more. I'm not telling my story about it. I'm ready for the next one.
I like that. I like that a lot. No, it is good to see you guys again. And yes, happy anniversary. 6 years ago today, the Cubs did something magical. They won the World Series, in case you didn't know. Jeremiah, how you doing, sir? Good to be back. It's good to be back at Cubs on Tap. I haven't seen you guys in a while. Last Cubs on Tap show, Juice, you and Joey ran one after the Jed Hoyer presser. And we've had a little bit of silence here. We've had some we've had some other things going on. We've got Juice and I making some appearances over on Bears on Tap. We got Tyler killing it over here with articles day in and day out. We've been busy. We've been busy beavers in that time being. But gentlemen, let's talk a little bit about it right at the gate, shall we? 6 years ago today. I still remember where I was. I was in the middle of my bed in a prayer position as that last at bat was happening, and the ball hit Rizzo's mitt, and I went to jump out of my bed, and I got caught in the sheet a little bit, and I almost face planted out of my bed. Then ran and my mom met me in the doorway of her bedroom, and I remember picking her up, and she said the next day her ribs were sore because of how hard I grabbed her and hugged her because we were all so excited. Because again, for me, like my parents were both Cubs fans, so like that's what made me a Cubs fan. So to see them get jubilant and excited about it was cool too. But Juice, I like where your head's at though with that, right? Like I think that's a fair thing. We can all sit here and be like, damn it, that was a fun year. Like that whole ride was fun because I remember that whole playoff time. Tyler, you were mentioning after game 1 losing your voice after the Baez home run, and like I still remember watching like game 2 of the World's, or not game 2. It might have been game. No, it might have been. I think it was game 2 of that Giants series. I remember watching that up at the bar after like one of our college football games because I was a senior in college that year. I was like hanging out with a bunch of my buddies that were Cubs fans from school, and like, I those are the memories I have, right? Like of the pieces throughout the way too. Like I was with a bunch of teammates after a game. We were watching them clinch the NL pennant. Like those all kind of resonate as well. But that's my story's not as exciting. Juice, I mean, you have a pretty good one. Tyler, I don't know your story though. I would love to hear yours as well. Just again, like Juice said, we'll celebrate one more time of what happened 6 years ago today.
I believe I was 2 years in at the fire department. But on my days off, I was delivering pizzas for Domino's, and like we said beforehand, that was the most stressed out I've been up until this point now. So stressed. Like you said, I lost my voice after the Baez home run, but I was delivering pizzas, and I had called into work in the NLCS, or I called into Domino's, and they lost that night. And I was like, never again. Never again. I'm not calling in no more. I had a hat. I had this Anthony Rizzo hat that I got earlier that year. I always brought it with me. I either had it on the fire truck. I had it in my car while I was delivering pizzas. Always had it. And I remember I had my phone in the back where I folded boxes. Box folding Domino's Pizza champion, by the way. Not official, but I was. But I just remember being from the lowest low from when Rajah Davis hit that home run. I remember being at the lowest, just the lowest low to the point where I was looking into like, thinking about calling in sick the next day, to just being at just the highest high. Like I just had delivered a pizza when they hit the ground ball to Bryant. I remember driving around the square, just blaring my horn, almost at midnight in this little town I live in, and calling my dad. Like my dad's a big Giants fan, but when he's not rooting for the Giants, he was rooting for the Cubs. And I remember just calling him. Oh, I was crying, dude. It was, just great. So fun. Such a, and like you said, like I was saying earlier, though, so fun, but so stressful, like so stressful. But man, I loved it. It was great.
It is great. And like Jeremiah said here in the comments, that is the beauty of baseball, right? I mean, that's what we get up and live for. And Juice, yeah. you were ootin' a boot with the Cubs faithful, right?
Yeah, well, so World Series, yes. Some of the playoff run, I would go out and I would I know Joey for a fact was out in Wrigley.
He was,
he was. But for me, so I'll start all the way at Game 3. So Game 3, I was watching normal spot, hanging out. And if you guys remember, Game 4 was close, obviously, to Halloween. And as you guys know, here at On Tap, really good friends, and I've been longtime friends with Buzz. We had our own friend group that every year we had a Halloween party. Well, this year actually fell on the year that Buzz was renovating his first house. So he had things all over and was unable to throw the Halloween party. So I stepped up and I said, yeah, I'll throw it. So I'm sitting at game 3 with my family, and they lose that one. And I'm like, man, like, I really don't want to have this party. It's a lot of people that I don't watch these games with coming into the house. I'm entertaining people, having to run around and make sure that, everybody's having a good time. I want to be able to watch the game. And my mom, being the saint that my mom is, and my sisters, they helped me out a little bit while that was going on. But obviously they lose, Game 4.
Yep. And
I'm standing there with Buzz, and I'll never ever forget this, because I'm sitting there like, man, hey, that's over. That was fun. It's a good run. You never expect them to win 3 in a row against a team like that with the pitching they had and the run that the Indians were on. It did. It seemed, insurmountable at that point. And I remember Buzz being the good side. He goes, you're going to make a series out of it. So he's like, I don't know if you'll win the whole thing, but if you win Game 5, there'll be a Game 7. And I'm like, okay. I'm sitting sulking in my beer and like, yeah, this thing's over. He's full of shit. So Game 5 happens, and this is when I was still in the liquor industry. So I had to count inventory the night of Game 5. So I watched and listened to Game 5 on the radio for 5 innings. And I don't think I've ever counted more in my life.
So you had to get stuck listening to Aaron Boone.
Yeah, I'm sitting. Yeah, it was bad. But, I mean, it was something. At that point, hey, it's way better than, not knowing what was going on. Yeah. But so around the 5th inning, we finished. But I'll never forget, we always did like a meal before we counted. The store paid for, what we ate before we got to go do the inventory. And it was pizza, Beggar's Pizza. And as Rondo, I hate Beggar's Pizza. I think it's low at whatever. So they won that game, right? And I raced home, and my aunt and all these people are over at my house, and I'm like, that's my seat. I'm sitting in my seat. Everybody, nobody's like, nobody sat in that seat. All right, I'm back. So we watched
everybody move.
Yeah, pretty much. So we're watching the game. They close it out, and I looked at everybody. My aunt and uncle, they live in Chicago. I'm like, I don't care what you're doing. You're coming back, for Game 6. You figure it out. I don't care what you're doing. You got to make sure you're here. They did. And I made sure we ordered Beggar's Pizza. They won Game 6 pretty handily. And I looked at everybody else and I said, they're going to play Game 7. And every single person who's in this room is going to be in this room.
Better fucking be here.
And I will go and pick every single one of you up if I have to. And we're eating the same shit again. So get your appetite ready.
Yeah.
So game 7 happens. The same people came. We're watching the game. And obviously they're leading comfortably.
Yeah.
And my dad calls his best friend, diehard White Sox fan. And was like, hey, they're come over. Feel free. He comes over. It all fell apart. Oh
no.
And White Sox fan guy, is yelling, this is the best baseball game I've ever seen. And I'm sitting over here like, this is not
Shut up. Yeah, you're like, no.
To the point where, and I'd never forget, in the 7th inning, I went to go grab a beer out of the garage fridge, and I'm walking past him, and he taps me on the shoulder and goes, congratulations on your World Series. And I said, don't you fucking dare.
Oh, man.
So, fast forward, they come back, they win. Awesome. I had bought a full case of shitty champagne just in case. But I did not bring it in the house. It sat in my car that whole time with the receipt in it because I was too worried that if I were to bring it in even near the house, that it would jinx it.
Bad juju, absolutely.
Ran in there, and I made sure I lit the receipt on fire, and we poured it all over ourselves. Our whole family was out there popping bottles in our backyard. It's awesome. I went to work the next day. Smelled like booze. Was told to go home. That's what I tweeted out today. Smelled like booze. I was told to go home. I said, well, I'm not going to be back for a week because I'm going on a bender. I got a parade tomorrow or 2 days from now. I'm going on a bender. So that's my story. Hey, it's on the record here, and that's it. This is the last time that I'm bringing this one up until they win another one, and I got another one to sit and talk about on the show with you guys. Because it's not that I didn't love that season. It's time. It's the one thing I always kind of laughed at, the South Side being like, oh, 2005. I'm like, that was forever ago. That's 20 years ago. Yeah. I said, if I were ever to win one, I wouldn't bathe in it that long. And I'm ready. I'm done. 6 years, plenty of time I had my celebrations. I got the DVDs. I got all the memorabilia. I saw it. I'm here. I want another one.
Yeah. And I think that's the right method to take with it too, because it is one thing to enjoy those wins, right? But it's natural to want more. And I think us as Cubs fans the page has been turned, right? It's no longer just one before I die. It's no, let's keep doing this. This shit's fun. Like winning World Series is cool and tough. Like, let's keep doing it. And, I think that's what Jed Hoyer and Dan Kantrovitz and Carter Hawkins and company in the front office feel as well. And even David Ross and the players on the field. And maybe this is a perfect opportunity, I think, for us to start churning our conversation to the present day, right? And what we're witnessing. Obviously, Juice, to your point, you're looking over at your bobblehead holding your phone. I'm looking over to my left here because I have a little TV up in that corner over there with the World Series on as well. Tyler's doing the same, as you can see him pointing on the live stream here. Now, we're all watching. Yeah. October baseball is oodles and oodles of fun. Obviously, it's November now, but nonetheless, it's still October baseball in theory. And couple familiar faces in this series for Cubs fans. Obviously, Kyle Schwarber's there. Nicholas Castellanos, who's my favorite, is there. Amongst others, David Rob. Hey, how about our boy Robertson? How about our boy D-Rob getting traded to the Phils and getting a run at the World Series? Good for him. But I mean, I agree. I really do agree, Juice. And a guy that could be a part of that next great Cubs team was rightfully awarded. And as anybody watching the live stream here can see, it's my little tagline for the night. May it go on record. I know they showed all the signs in the stands throughout the season of people saying it. And you get people that are on Twitter, oh, I've been saying it all year. We are on motherfucking record here at Cubs on Tap. I brought it up every single goddamn show that I could, that Ian Happ better win the Gold Glove this year. And son of a bitch, he did it. And I'm so happy for Ian Happ. He absolutely deserved it. Played an incredible left field all season long. Guys, I mean, how pumped were you to see that news? I know I was knee deep in the day job, was in a terrible mood. And then I saw come across my phone, Ian Happ wins the Gold Glove. And I'm like, let's go. It gave me a revitalized, and a better sense of, hey, fuck yeah, let's go, Ian. Like, he got what he deserved. And I would love to hear you guys' thoughts on it, because I think we all agreed. We talked about it all season long. Like, he was deserving of being in that Gold Glove conversation.
Oh,
and
easily. Like I was pumped for it, but at the same time, I wasn't surprised. He deserved it all year long. Yeah. And kind of going back to, talking about the current World Series now and what you had finished with as far as having just that winning mentality. I hope Tom Ricketts and Jed Hoyer are watching the World Series right now, seeing what the Phillies did as far as spending money. A lot of people at the beginning of the year was talking about the Phillies and like, oh my gosh, they spent all this money on these players. I don't know. Look what's happened. I hope they are watching this and think, maybe we should do that for our guys. Maybe we should extend our guys. Maybe we should extend Ian Happ, extend Nico Horner, who, by the way, he got robbed. He got robbed of not even being, and I know not to take any, I know the limelight right now is on Ian Happ, but Horner got robbed as far as not even being named a finalist. But with that being said, I hope that, I hope ownership is watching the World Series now, seeing what, these guys, what they did with the Phillies. And even I'm sure after this series, no matter whether the Astros win or lose, I'm sure Pena, the shortstop for the Astros, he's going to get an extension, better get an extension. And I hope that they see that, and maybe it just, reminds them, hey, we need to let's look at Ian Happ this offseason. Let's look at Nico Horner this offseason. Let's look at other guys this offseason and extend these guys. Because if we, as fans need to have that expectation, the same mentality that we have now is like, let's win. It's time to win. We're the fourth. What are we? The fourth highest, the fourth most valuable team in baseball. Is that right? Fourth right. Most, and we don't even crack the top 10 in payroll. And I'm not praising the Yankees, because let's be honest, they haven't won a championship in 2009. But every year, teams like them, teams like the Dodgers, teams like, hell, look at the Braves right now. They all had that expectation every single year. We're winning. Yeah, 2016 was great, but we need, like you said, let's move past it and have that winning mentality of, hey, we're winning every single year. And it starts with taking care of guys like Ian Happ, Nico Horner. But yeah, props to Ian Happ though, man. Not surprised, but well deserved.
Yeah, absolutely. And Juice, before you share your thoughts here, just to back up Tyler's argument about Nico Horner really quick. Amongst all shortstops in Major League Baseball, only one shortstop had a better outs above average than our boy Nico Horner, and that was the Gold Glove winner, Dansby Swanson. But in general, in baseball, if we're looking at the Gold Glove winners, two Gold Glove winners actually below Nico Horner in outs above average, that being a pair of Cleveland Guardians and Stephen Kwan and Miles Straw. Well, Miles Straw was equivalent to Nico Horner, but Nico Horner tied for the 12th best outs above average in baseball at any position. That wasn't even just shortstop. So that just showed how good he was defensively. Again, I think we all knew Swanson was probably going to win it for the NL. He was just that good defensively at shortstop. But Nico Horner not even being named a finalist is a little insulting. So absolutely agree with you there.
Real quick, I hope he takes that. I hope he takes that as just like the biggest slap to the face, and just it motivates him next year. And I hope he wins it next year. I hope he I really do. And I think he will. I think he will use that as motivation, because he seems like that type of guy.
He does. He seems like that silent killer kind of player, where he's just like, okay, watch me work and get it done. Juice, thoughts, my friend?
Yeah, no, congrats to Ian. Like Tyler said, runaway winner of this award. I mean, there was no one near him at his position in terms of defensively this year. It was almost like a coronation for him much of the year. He had won it fairly early, in my opinion. But yeah, I think like the best thing that Tyler said, and agree with you, I think it's a two-pronged approach for this. If you wanted to take a look at what's going on in the World Series, it's the ability to make the dance every year in the Houston Astros. And that's what you kind of strive for, right? You draft well, you scout well, and that's what they're trying to build here. And you get a crack at the egg several years in a row. And then also looking at the Phillies and being like, we could be a team that's both of that, a team that spends the money and scouts well. And then at that point, you're almost you're towards the top of a dynasty at that point. A team that, and baseball, I think it's out of all the sports to identify what's dynasty, I think it's the hardest too, because it is so tough to win, multiple championships within a run. We talked about that Giants team is probably the most recent dynasty, but I mean, these mini dynasties that the Houston Astros have going on and the LA Dodgers are very, we'll look back at this era and go, man, like they accomplished some impressive stuff, man. To win your division so easily every year as they both have, and to get in and get, several bites at the apple, I think is, but yeah, I think there's two, you brought up two players there, and Ian Happ and Nico Horner, that with the rule changes that we're going to be talking about, absolutely need to be brought back, because they put an emphasis on having 5-tool players in your lineup, guys who could do it all. I mean, it's much like in hockey and in basketball. If you watch like these sports, the more two-way players, the guys who do more than one thing very well, those are the championship teams. Like you sit and watch Golden State, and they have guys like Draymond Green and Klay Thompson who shoot and can play some offense. Steph Curry obviously is a generational talent at that. But then even to build like those old Blackhawks teams to go back in like the 2010 dynasties, they had a lot of two-way guys. And I think that's the way baseball is going to go now with these rule changes. It's not just going to be you can hide a guy out here or there. No, because the bases are going to be bigger. There's going to be more movement. There's going to be more high-action plays where you're going to need guys. I think for a long time, people like stuck somebody out in left field who can't play defense. And now it's going to be very much of an advantage to have a guy who could throw the bases, to have a guy who is obviously, more than just, hey, stack him out there. He's a power hitter, and very much so what Schwarber was before he, took that jump and got better defensively. That's kind of what they were doing. I think that Ian Happ, and I love to bring back like what Jed Hoyer said in the presser. I know me and Joey did that episode, a while back, but he had talked about Ian Happ and Nico Horner in the same breath as we're in the preliminary stages of negotiation, and they better be, because you don't just let guys like that walk away when realistically those are mainstays and guys you can build around, and you better figure it out, because somebody is going to pounce on that pretty quick and make sure that Ian Happ and Nico Horner are within their lineup and doing things that our 5-tool player type guys do in a lineup or defensively. And like I said, there's just going to be a huge, premium put on guys who could run and play defense and steal bags coming next year. And that's not easy to find, because that's not where the game was slowly transpiring to. It's a skill that I think is going to be tough to replace in free agency or to scout immediately and bring in a guy that is at the level that what those two guys are doing. So yeah, they better be on the phone with these two guys, because those are guys that you build around, not just with.
Absolutely. And speaking of a guy that's a good two-way player, he was the Gold Glove winner in the AL, and Kyle Tucker. He also just drove in now the 4th Houston Astros run in the current game. Astros breaking this one open in the 5th inning. But agree with you, Juice. I think those are all great points. Baseball is going to become a more two-way game. And I think because of that, it's going to become more entertaining, right? I think hockey kind of went through that evolution with more two-way players in it, becoming more of a skilled two-way game and guys that excel at that, and that's entertaining to watch. Football in a lot of ways is like that. Obviously, two-way guys aren't necessarily the same deal because of two sides of the football, but guys that can do multiple things, right? Guys that can rush the passer and stop the run. Guys that can cover and play the run as, DBs. Guys on offense, right? Pass blocking and heavily good run blocking offensive linemen. Tight ends that can block and catch the ball. Running backs that can, do everything. Like, being more versatile is where sports in general are going. Even, you could even make the argument of basketball, right? We talk about guys that can guard, 1 through 5 on defense and how important that is. Like, That's absolutely the trend. And I'm happy that baseball is going that direction because I truly think it's going to make things more interesting. And I think these rule changes are going to make things more interesting, Juice. And I'm glad you said that because I think this is a good time for us to transition to some of these changes because there's some big ones. They're really going to change, I think, how a lot of teams play baseball. Obviously, a big one is the pitch timer. 30 seconds between batters, 15-second timer with bases empty, 20-second timer with runners on base. There's a whole thing of it, coming in motion.
Batters what is it? Pickoff attempts as well?
Limited pickoff attempts. Pitchers are limited to 2 disengagements, which is step-offs or attempts per plate appearance. Limit is reset if a runner or runners advance during the plate appearance. It's a very complex set of rules. It really is. Umpires can provide more time on special circumstances. The mound visits obviously will stay in play, things like that. So that's a big one. Obviously, the defensive shift limits for infielders must be within the outer boundary of the infield and the pitchers on the rubber. They cannot switch sides. In other words, teams can't reposition. Essentially, they're taking away the heavy shift with the shallow right fielder. Essentially, is what it's been over the last couple of seasons. And then the bigger bases. 4.5-inch reduction in the distance between first and second and third, which is absolutely literally says in this article, encourages more stolen base attempts. Yes, they want guys to run. And when you have guys, Ian Happ's got some speed. He stole some bags this year. Nico Horner had a great season stealing bases. He had 23, I think, by the end of the year. He was the first Cub to have greater than 20.
It was something like, and then he only got caught stealing what was it, 2 times maybe?
Yeah,
3?
he had
it was something ridiculous. Yeah,
really strong success rate. And again, going back to Juice's tinfoil hat take from episodes and episodes ago is going to live infamously until the Cubs win because of this model. But he said it right, the Cubs know where they want to go because Theo Epstein is probably a huge part of a lot of these changes, and Jed's been in Theo's ear for the last decade. You don't think Jed knew that they were going to start? The Cubs were one of the heaviest running teams in baseball last season. Imagine what happens when you got a 4.5-inch reduction from base to base. Most throwouts are by an inch or two. A guy sliding in, you just get him narrowly. The Cubs are going to run on everybody, and I can't wait to see that. And that's why I think. I'm going to sprinkle a little bit of foreshadowing for later episodes this offseason from Cubs on Tap here. But that's why I think a guy like Trey Turner fits in this Cubs lineup so perfectly because he can hit, but he can run like a motherfucker. And they're going to have guys up and down this lineup that can run. Nico, Ian, Seiya showed off the wheels at times. You go maybe get a guy like a Kevin Kiermaier in free agency. He can run out in center field. Morel can run. The list goes on and on of guys that can run on this team. So you just continue to put guys out there who can run and have speed. And this team could be motherfuckers. But guys, I want to turn it over to the two of you. Maybe the rule that you think is going to have the biggest impact on baseball, I think is something that's very interesting. And then just overall thoughts on these. Because again, there are 3 on the surface, right? It's 3 rule changes, but complexity wise, there are 3 very complex rule changes.
Very complex. Well, like you said, I think a lot of the emphasis is going to be placed on the athlete, the athleticism of players.
Yep.
I think it's going to affect what certain guys make this year, which makes me want to think that I want to say the one rule change, and you could have a case for, the 3 you talked about. You could have a case for all of them to be the biggest rule change, the biggest difference maker. I think it's the shift. I think with the shift change, I think you're going to see guys, obviously, I think you're going to see certain guys, their numbers maybe go back up a little bit. Maybe say a Joey Gallo. I think you're going to see guys that are going to get offered maybe more, I don't know necessarily higher contracts, but maybe more offers on the table. As far as the whole stolen base thing, though, something that I just thought of, and it's because my mind was on it because I read Joey's article on Wilson Contreras the other day. Could this affect the contract that maybe Wilson gets offered because with all these stolen base rates, with the increase of stolen bases next season, could that affect what maybe he gets offered? I just thought about that, but I think gone are going to be the days of like we talked about before, like this, and we kind of been talking about it in the past, anyways, of just the only second basemen that just strictly play second base. I think you're gonna see a lot of more utility type guys, guys that can play multiple spots, which Nico Horner's proven he can do. If we get a guy like Trey Turner, he's proven to do that as well. Xander Bogaerts has proven to do that as well, but. Yeah, I'd say out of all three, and as far as like with the pitching and stuff like that, I think off the bat you're going to see it's going to be a big giant cluster. I want to say like maybe the first month. I think you're going to see a lot of guys screw up, especially with the pickoff attempts, especially with just the confusion it brings. And I know these guys have been working on it and they're going to work on it, but still, some pitchers just, you mess with the rhythm, you mess with their routine. They're completely different. Look at Lance McCullers last night, and that's not even with the rule change. I think the first month you're going to see a lot of frustration with the pitching changes, and who knows, maybe even a lot of the younger teams that have a lot of minor league players being on their roster in 2023, maybe they succeed more at first because they've got younger guys that have played with those, certain rules and stuff like that. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be crazy.
That it is. Juice. What do you got, man? I know you're excited to talk about these rule changes because we've talked a little bit about them as the season was winding down. So I'm really interested to hear where your brain's at.
I think I'm most excited because I watched them, that they were doing them down here at the level and watching it. And it really made speed like a huge factor on who won and lost games. I mean, I watched
real quick. Did you know, like when you went and watched, all the South Bend games? How big of a difference do you know?
I'll tell you right now, the base looks ginormous, like the new base. And I was looking too. We probably read the same article, Ron. There's 45% more surface area to grab. So some of these guys who aren't normal base stealers. We're getting to the bag and pulling, Javi Baez, like low end, like dollar store Javi Baez moves and getting around guys because there's just more to grab. There's more to cover.
Yeah.
It made such a premium on making sure that as a catcher, the ball beat the runner significantly. Like there's no just like slapping a tag down anymore. Like the ball's got to be there. And it made for some awkward exchanges, I'll admit, at second base. Like watching PCA, which is probably the worst example because he's just so damn talented. I watched a game where he stole second and third easily. It had nothing to do with the bases, but then starting to think then they started experimenting with guys down the roster and watching those guys go, and those guys were still successful. It's like, man, really puts a premium in speed. I'll say the pitch clock stuff, it really didn't make a difference. I think the getting the ball and throwing it for those guys, and that could just be that's all they know, like you said earlier. Yeah. But the pitch clock stuff I actually loved it because there wasn't a downtime to look down at my phone. It was like pitcher got the ball, he's on the mound already, go. Like that's I think it's really going to cut into the times. It was nice too to watch a game that finishes within 2:15, 2:30 at most. Yeah. That's what's nice. You get a good pitcher who's moving, that it's a really quick baseball game. And it's kind of nice. Gone I think are the days where you're going to spend 5-6 hours at a ballpark now. I really do. I think it's just going to be such a quick baseball game now. And with the pitch com and things like that, the advances in technology, I think it's made it a lot easier for them to meet that pitch clock. It's not egregious. I know I've seen a lot of people who, didn't get a chance to experience it, and they're like, man, this thing's going to suck. And actually, I had a conversation with Prez, Tony on tap over here about the pitch clock. He very much hates it. But I told him
Shocking.
you're gonna love it within like probably 2 games. It's gonna take a game or two to get used to. I'll say that, because the normal time that I would take to look up a player, I mean, that player was already in the dugout before you could find, a stat line or whatever. So it's interesting there. But I think the base is the biggest change. I really, because I think that it changes the way you build a ball club. And the minute you're not going to change pitching because a guy has a better pickoff move, or he's slow to the plate now with this. He's just going to adjust. It's just a matter of if you're a slow worker, too bad. I mean, it's get the ball and throw it now. There's no waiting now. And you know what? A lot of those guys are veteran guys that have probably overstayed their welcome in the MLB. They're those crafty guys that mess around with timing. And pitching is that, but there's other ways that you can do that. There's holding leg kicks. Yeah. Like Johnny Cueto, like there's quick side steps, there's holding leg kicks, there's, turning your back to the pit. Like there's other ways you can mess around with timing other than hold the ball for forever.
Do you think we'll see teams, speaking of that rule, do you think we'll see a lot more teams? Like, how used to 10 years ago, there was always a roster spot, not just for the playoffs, but there was always a roster spot for that speed guy. Like, is Terrence Gore getting a contract at the beginning of this year?
I don't think it'll be
Cubs legend.
I think it'll be like there will be more emphasis on taking the 5-tool player over the power guy now. Like, I really truly I believe that, and I think too, like defensively, like maybe you'll give up 10 home runs if it means you steal 10 more bases and commit 5 or 10 less errors. Like, I think that's kind of the way that, and as a Cub fan, I'm excited about it, because if you were to build a team with the rule changes for the future, the Cubs are at the perfect spot for it, to kind of invest in a player or 2 or 3 that kind of fit these rule changes. And then I don't want to say that like South Bend was the only, team that was successful with this, obviously, but like it's the team that I watched, obviously. But like the way that their roster was built, there's a reason that they won the whole thing. And it was they stole a lot of bases. I'll tell you, they ran often. And it wasn't just PCA. Like they got people moving pretty often. And they played really good defense because they had, 3 outfielders out there that were plus defensively. They had 2 great middle infielders. And I've said it on the show for a long time, Pablo Alejandro is, if he can ever figure out how to hit consistently, like he's like amazing defensively. I love watching that kid play. His pop times, the way he threw a lot of people out too, even with the big bases, which was impressive. Like he's a very interesting catching prospect for me for the future. I'm a big fan of his. But yeah, I think like the pitching stuff, like the pickoff things, it's going to be, but yeah, I think it's between the shift and the big base, because the shift at least is going to maybe that makes a 210 hitter a 230, 240 hitter, because the balls they were losing out to that guy out in, left field or right field, or however, I think the shift rules are interesting. I do think that like there's a lot of fake good baseball teams that were out there that were just good at data and shifting, that now they're going to be stuck at normal positions and normal depths. It's going to be interesting to see how that all plays out. Like, remember when the Brewers were so damn good at it for, their run like 2-3 years ago? And I don't even know the rules or their like status of how good they were this year. But I'm just going to be honest with you. Like, there are teams out there that I think are going to have major defensive drop-offs because they're not shifting, because they shifted so often that now that they're at normal depth, it's going to be like being on the moon for them. They're not going to know where they're at.
Yeah. And something too that I was thinking about, Juice, when you were talking about pitch timing and it speeding up games, because you get a lot of the purists in baseball, Prez Tony, who don't like the faster speed. But people that are going to have to adjust maybe the most, and I know guys like Max Thoma did that at the South Bend level, the broadcasts are probably going to sound a lot different now with the faster paced game, right? Because baseball was historically such a slow game that you could tell the stories and you could, there was a little more time in between, pitches. And now maybe, now it's gonna change things. Now it's all of a sudden you're gonna be halfway through a story and it's gonna be like, hold on, son of a bitch, pitch is coming. Hang on. 2 seconds. All right, here we go. Continue your story. Like I'm that's just the broadcast nerd in me that's interested to see
And
that.
Ron,
but again,
I think it'll help the broadcast.
maybe.
Yeah. And Ron, to build on that, there were plenty of times I watched the South Bend game on my TV and caught like middle of stories that went into the next inning because that's how quick that the inning was. Like, I mean, imagine, well, this is the thing too. The batter has to be in the batter's box within a certain time too.
I think so it's like 8 seconds or some shit like that. Yeah.
And they can't step out but like once, right? Or once or twice, something like that. Maybe
I think they can step up, but within 8 seconds, seconds, they have to be in. They have to be in the box. It's something like that. I'm just gonna say this. It resulted, and I don't know if this was just South Bend. It resulted in a lot of like 2-3 pitch outs because people were just like, I'm going to get in there. I got no time to think about what this pitcher is going to throw me. I'm just going to see it hit it. And it happened often where there were a lot of 1 pitch, 2 pitch, 3 pitch outs, which I liked too. It was like it took away like the 3 outcome kind of mess of what baseball's been, which was, homer, walk, strikeout. If it's within 3 pitches, it was like, oh man, this guy hit, a rocket at shortstop and it was just a good play, defensively. Or, it was nice to like just watch a batter get in there and just, all right, man, I'm going to see it hit it.
I think it's also going to benefit the guys that truly have a good eye for the strike zone as well, right? Because if you truly have that good eye, that's the difference between like, yeah, I saw it because I had time to get adjusted and mentally set versus, yeah, I just saw it because I have a good eye for the strike zone and I know what's striking, what's not. Like I think a guy like Seiya Suzuki is going to thrive with it next year because it's going to be, like you said, see ball, hit ball, or see ball, take ball 1. You know what I mean? Like it's not going to be, oh, I'm going to sit here and overthink it. And sometimes that's almost better, right? In sports, like you hear so often about like, don't overthink it, don't overthink it, don't overthink it, don't overthink it. Well, like a slow-paced game like baseball was perfect opportunity for a psychopath like myself who would be standing in the box going, fuck, what's he going to throw? What's he going to throw? What? Overthink.
Oh my God.
Like that would be me the entire time. So I really do think that is going to benefit the whole situation. I'm excited, man. I mean, we got to try. I
loved new baseball. I'm just gonna say that, like, I don't know if it was just South Bend and it's in my backyard, but I loved the action. And Ron, to build just last point to build on that, that whole strike zone. That's the next wrinkle of this thing, the challenging of the strike zone, which I'm excited to see how that plays out to where they can, radio back and get an answer within 10 seconds of if an umpire called a correct ball or strike. And when you use that, and only a player can, initiate the challenge.
Like 2? Is it 2? How many challenges is it?
It's not many. I think it's like 2 I think it's like 2, and you only get 2 for like the whole game, unless you're right twice.
The first batter of the game is going. I challenge the first 2 pitches.
Well, yeah, and that's the thing. Like when it gets to the player, there's a real team aspect of like throwing. It's not like the manager is the one who is challenging the balls and strikes. It brings up a scenario where, it's 3-2 and the pitcher at the end, or the hitter at the end of the year, needs one more walk to bonus out. Like, do you do it because you're like there's this selfish kind of wrinkle to this that could be a possibility.
The old school vets are probably going to have like dibs on the challenges.
Wouldn't surprise me.
I wouldn't be shocked if we didn't see one rookie next year like challenge a ball or strike.
Anything.
Yeah, we should do a counter on that.
Yeah,
we should do a counter on that. I think what's going to be the most interesting part of it too, though, is I think the challenge more so is just for that egregious call that like ruins a run. You know what I mean? Like, you get 2 guys on, you've scored 2 runs in the inning, you're feeling it. The pitcher's just not finding the strike zone. You've got a chance to hit them, and like an egregious like lower outside strike gets called to end the inning, and like that's when it's going to be no challenge. Okay,
or two-run strike 3 in the top of the 9th when you're down 1. I mean, you might as well challenge it, regardless if it's right or wrong.
It's going to be exciting because the human aspect is still going to be a part of it, and you get a Bryce Harper on a bad day, on a very bad day, maybe some older some guy just in a slump that hasn't hit water if he fell out of a boat, and he's just going to be just fuck it, I don't care. I'm challenging it right now. Don't care. Like what's going to happen. And it's going to be or some vet. There's going to be some vet like a Nelson Cruz who is he a free agent? He may or may. I think he's a free agent. Some guy
he's like 100 now.
Yeah, some guy that hasn't been signed. He probably won't get signed till later in the year. That doesn't remember or know all the rules and come in and something happened and he get called strike 3 and he didn't even the pitcher didn't even throw it. It's because he took just something. We're going to see a blow up this year. It's going to be awesome. I hope we do. I hope we see one blow up from a guy that like doesn't understand the rules or forgets the rules, something, and just go all out on the umpire and then kind of find out you didn't know the rule, buddy. You forgot it or whatever.
Yeah.
And when that rule happens, I will guarantee you that Kyle Schwarber will be at the top of the leaderboard for ones challenged.
Oh yeah, could be.
He sees like the worst strike 3 calls. He sees like the worst strike 3 calls in the history of baseball.
Seiya saw a lot of those last year too. I would be shocked if they give Seiya full reign. Like, dude, if you think it's a ball,
go for it. You have
just go for it. Just point at the ump and be like, "You're an idiot."
Yeah,
fix it. Like,
can we just get like robot umps already? I mean, if we're really doing all this, like, what's the point? That's my 2 cents on it.
I mean, it's in this past year, it's gotten to the point where, like, not to get on a huge topic of umpires, it's getting to the point where it's like they're being, targeted more, or they've got the spotlight on them. Like just yesterday, Chaz McCormick, he deleted the tweet, or he deleted part of it, but he was complaining about a call last night. He struck out and 2 of the pitches weren't strikes, and he's on Twitter just like not even close. Like it just seems like this past year there's been so much just spotlight on them. So yeah, I wouldn't be shocked if in the next 2 years we don't see robot umps. But then at the same time, some people like Tony and Buzz that they like the old school. They like that part of the game. Maybe some people like the human factor. I don't know. To be honest, I'd probably really like robot umps. Once they get into the game, but
look at other sports. Look at other sports that use robots.
Tennis doesn't even use it.
Tennis is a perfect example.
Yeah,
tennis it's all robotic.
Yeah, tennis is all robotic. The only reason that the I don't even know what the technical term is for them.
I think they're still on. I think they're still
an umpire. Like,
or
that's
judge,
more for
line
like
judge.
Is it
might be line judge? I don't know.
But like their job is more so like like ethical type things and like, hey, you can't do that versus like boundary. You know what I mean? Like strike zone is boundary, right? Like if you want to, hey, you can't do that. Like if you need an umpire out there to enforce the new rule changes, sure, that makes sense. Hey, you're too far over. You gotta bump over. That's an illegal shift. That type of stuff. But like another thing too that it brings to mind in terms of sports, like soccer does that too, for offside calls and goal calls. They can look at a robotic thing and it shows, okay, the ball crossed the line. It's a good goal, or this guy was in fact behind the last defender. He's offside. Like they can do that. And I don't see why it's bad thing with baseball. Can we also mention really quick too? Sorry, Juice, before
go
you
ahead.
get on your tangent here. Tyler's analogy about not being able to hit water if he fell out of a boat.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of that.
That caught me off guard. I thought that was funny. I just wanted to mention that. But what do you got, Juice?
No, and just like with millions and millions of dollars in betting, and like this is the way that viewing sports is going on now. Like you got to get it right. I mean, there's millions of dollars worth of exchanging hands. It can't be decided by a 60 to 70-year-old who's back there who gets his eyes checked like 6 times a week. Like that's not. It's just stupid to use human error, and especially when you're deciding somebody's money. So I don't know. I'm ready for robot umps, but I think the South Bend Cubs have made me cynical about all the old like timey tradition things, because I watched the new game down here, and I'm like, this is better than what I watch up there, because there were times where I'm like, we would talk about recording a show, and I'm like, man, if this were a South Bend Cubs game, this game would have been over like an hour ago. And it's not. It's a matter of like, there's just so much downtime within a baseball game that just does not make sense, and that's why I love the new rules. I think everybody's going to love them too. I really do. I think
there's. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, I'm good.
I was going to say there's other. Which, speaking of those rules, there's other rules as well that might not be as huge changes. Maybe not necessarily towards the game, but as far as roster stuff, don't like the whole. What is it? A guy can only be sent up and brought back down 5 times. There's no more 7-game doubleheaders. The schedules, we're not going to play everybody in the division as much anymore.
The schedule one, that's an interesting one too. It's an interesting wrinkle.
And then there was one. I didn't even realize this one. There was one. There's like incentives for certain players. Mainly to like keep owners, basically from what happened to Chris Bryant to prevent that.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. Incentives for not holding players back down until they, what is it like in May
like service time manipulation and things like that.
Yeah, stuff like that. There was another one I read that might be. I know it's not necessarily. It's not going to affect anything but the All-Star game, but the home run derby. If there is a tie after the 9th inning, I like that. Oh, and the ghost runner. I think the ghost runner is gone after in extras.
That would be magical.
Yeah. Which, as far as no more which I know it's not, you don't think about it as far as games, but like if you go back and read what we did, like, if we, you see all the transactions we made last year as far as guys being called up, sent down. A lot of that was because of the 7-inning doubleheaders. Now there's going to be, just 9-inning doubleheaders. And now we can't, call guys up and down, 15 times and stuff like that. So it might not be necessarily game changes, but there's still going to be some stuff that management, front office, David Ross are all going to have to consider and factor in when, putting in the lineup and, which guys pitching this day, how, using certain guys.
Yep. Absolutely. All good points. Gentlemen, we are approaching the 1 hour mark. So I do want to turn it over back to you guys. Any final thoughts? I mean, again, World Series baseball is still thriving. Looks like this series is going to be 2-2 after tonight, the way things are trending. So at least 2 more games guaranteed, it seems like, in this World Series. Again, the last World Series we're celebrating in terms of anniversaries for the Cubs, because we're looking forward to the next one. And rule changes on the horizon, man, that are going to be interesting to see. Gentlemen, final thoughts for the listeners before we get out of here.
I love watching Kyle Schwarber in the playoffs. He's a playoff legend. Like, I compared his stats to David Ortiz, and they're not quite there yet, but with how much he has left in the tank, dude, like, it just makes you like, you hate going back and like looking at what could have been, but it just makes you just really scratch your head as far as why couldn't we, pay that guy whatever. Was it $10 million we could have paid him? Yeah, I think it was less. Just sucks because just that's the kind of guy. Like, could you imagine just hanging out with him and Andrew Chafin when they both played on just 2 dudes that I would love to just sit down and have a beer with after a game late at night, man. Like, but just watching him do what he does and watching even Harper. I used to hate Bryce Harper, and now looking back on it after listening to an interview he was in a couple of years ago and all that, and looking back on the 2017 rumors of, could Harper sign with the Cubs? And at the time, I'm like, hell no, I don't want him. And now it's just like, God, like what those 2 guys are doing, especially Schwarber, man, it's just awesome. And one other thing that we haven't really addressed, the elephant in the room, and it got brought up in the World Series. Albert Pujols. Don't think I forgot about that. I mean, used an illegal bat after 2010. I don't care if it was because of safety issues, whatever, blah blah blah. It was an illegal bat. Going back to my case, as far as let's not even talk about the PEDs. Using an illegal bat, and now in game one we find out from Tom Verducci, if I probably just butchered his last name, but passed out an illegal bat, gave an illegal bat to Martin Maldonado. So who knows what is he passing out illegal bats to everybody else? I'm not even talking about the PEDs, which I can or can't confirm. But Albert, and what's even crazier is right after that, he signed his little retirement paper like the day after. Like, nope, not getting involved with this, even though everyone talked about how he was going to retire at whatever. But as soon as that happened, just no, don't want that. And it just sounds like, MLB has just catered to him, and he's a fraud. And I see it. Other people may not, but I see it. And I've seen it all year long. And just game one of the World Series, I guess it was game one. It was game one or game two, whichever game it was. Thank you, Tom, for giving us that information. I'm sure MLB was probably like just screaming at the television as soon as you said that. But thank you. You're a legend. I appreciate it. Yeah.
I was going to say, we needed one last good Albert Pujols rant out of Tyler before the season was truly coming to a close.
I didn't forget.
Oh, legendary. Absolutely legendary. Juice, what do you got for us for final thoughts?
I don't know how I follow that other than just telling everybody to go read Tyler's 5 left-handed batters article that
there you go.
He put out the other day. That was really interesting to read. But no, my final thoughts are just I hope that everybody next year for baseball has an open mind with these new rule changes, because it truly is for the best of baseball to go this route. I think that far too long the game got too stale. I mean, we're talking about long games of lots of dead time with next to zero, excitement level, 3 outcome. I think that there's a lot of these rule changes that are going to make it's going to make the game better because there's going to be more action. If there's more action, there's more things that you can market. I think the best thing that has happened this postseason is all the action, right? It's been a very exciting postseason in terms of lead changes and exciting plays, and I think it's just interesting to put rules in place that are going to make that more frequent within the game. And I think the Cubs are, like I said earlier, in a really good spot. But yeah, I'll end that with I'll end that with an Al Pujols. Thank God you're out the door, man. Tyler, I'm sold he was using a metal bat all year, and
could have been,
and they were doing something.
We can't prove that he didn't. Can't prove that he didn't.
And given a bat to Martin Maldonado is probably the best way to ensure that it never gets touched by a baseball. So
yeah,
I mean that's
he wasn't
the side note of it is that bat was very safe from any hits at all. So, but yeah, I think this is a good episode. I want to make sure that the listeners make sure you guys are going to the YouTube and hitting that bell notification so you guys can get all this action that we're going to be having here. There's a lot of good stuff coming down the line. We're going to do our wish list, and we're talking about that tomorrow and over the course of the next couple of days and how we're going to unveil that to all you guys. And make sure you guys are heading over to the Bears stuff, the Sox stuff. Ron, you're doing a great job with all the Hawks coverage that's going on. That's a very exciting team too that came out of nowhere right now. They're playing some exciting brand of hockey, and and just to build on the Bears stuff, you've been doing a great job at. I can see the bags between your eyes, man, and don't think that it doesn't don't think that it doesn't go unnoticed from all our on tappers, buddy. I enjoy listening to you on those podcasts, and man, it's an exciting time for this company, and I'm excited that there's a lot of guys on board right now to listen to our Cubs stuff, because to the moon, baby, that's where we're going.
Absolutely. I'm so excited for this off season, for next season. So many fun things. Obviously, the rule changes, I think, are going to play a part of that. I really do like where baseball's going. I'm right there with you guys. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Really, really excited. I'm excited to see how that impacts what the Cubs do this off season, how they improve this team, and how this team looks better for 2023. I mean, it's going to be a wild ride. I know we're still excited about the World Series, but I'm ready for free agency because I want to know what the Cubs are doing, because there's just so many options and opportunities for this team to improve and be legendary next year. And I'm looking forward to next season where, we take a trip out to the old South Bend there by Juice, and hopefully we can get down even to Knoxville for
bedrooms right here, boys.
There you go. Hey, hopefully we can get down to Knoxville for a little Double-A Tennessee action at some point on a weekend, maybe if we could coordinate, maybe a Des Moines trip, and maybe if we really can go wild, even a Myrtle Beach trip, maybe get baked in there somehow.
Road trip,
little spring break, doing spring break in our 30s.
Yeah, we get an on tap sports bus. Let's just get a tour bus and just
go.
I'm down.
Yeah, that sounds like a plan, and we can even do shows from the bus then, and it would be a good time. But yeah, man, it's gonna be a lot of fun. I agree with you guys. It's gonna be a lot of fun, and exactly like you said, you make sure you check out all of that stuff because, gentlemen, Cubs on Tap is the official Cubs podcast of the On Tap Sports Network. Be sure to check out all of our great work at ontapsportsnet.com and at ontapsportsnet on social media. As Juice said, Bears, Bulls, Blackhawks, Cubs, White Sox, we've got it all here for you. Bets, you name it, we've got it. Check it out over on the website. Our boys over at the Sox are talking about a new manager and, how they get out of their disastrous 500 season, and we're talking about a bright future over here, Cubs on Tap. So, maybe a tale of two teams, but nonetheless, good information coming from both sides as well. So once again, ontapsportsnet.com, at ontapsportsnet on social media, and on Tap Sports Network. Go ahead, check out what's on tap in Chicago sports. Gentlemen, it's always a pleasure to get back on the microphone with the two of you. We are one short of a full barn. Joey was doing some on tap bet stuff with our boy Jack Bushman today. So if you didn't see that show, be sure to check that out as well. They recorded about maybe about 3 hours ago now, as this is live. But be sure to check that out. And yeah, as Juice said, we're coming back with good stuff all season long, and all off season long. Guests, wish lists, thoughts, obviously analysis and reactions as things happen throughout the offseason and so much more. So be sure to tune in all offseason long with us here at Cubs on Tap. Gentlemen, it's a pleasure. And what do you say? Were you out here the only way know how? At Cubs on Tap?
Fuck the Cardinals.
Fuck the Cardinals and buckle up, boys.
And let's go Cubbies.